one of the Buddha's most profound teachings, 2,500 years ago, one of the Buddha's most profound teachings, he said is that everything changes, that life and change are synonymous. So in the Buddha's teaching of impermanence, he said everything changes and everything changes all the time. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is static. Everything changes. It's the truth of impermanence. And the truth is that most human beings, that most of us, even though we know that everything changes and that we know that everything is impermanent, we don't take it very seriously, and we choose to live our lives as if nothing ever changes and everything is static or unchanging. It means that we're out of alignment with the ultimate truth about the way things are. And if we're living in a profound lack of alignment or out of alignment with the truth of the way things are, I mean, so we're always going to be unprepared for when the inevitable happens. So what is inevitable is the fact that everything changes. So if we're living in alignment with the truth that everything changes, we will be more emotionally and psychologically, philosophically, and spiritually prepared for when things change. So when something happens in our life, either in our life or life around us, that demonstrates the truth of impermanence, the truth of impermanence that the Buddha taught, it means we're not going to be surprised, but we're going to say, of course, this is the way things are. And so this is a time, I think this is a time, this particular moment in our shared experience of life in 2020 in history. I think we're all given an opportunity now, when we're not, in those times of the day when we're not concerned about survival, these are moments when we can actually contemplate the Buddha's teaching of impermanence and the truth about change. We can actually use this as an opportunity to meditate on and to contemplate the truth about the nature of impermanence and the truth about the nature of perpetual change. Because now it's happening. We're all in the midst of it. And can we use our spiritual practice, and can we use our higher consciousness, and can we use our discriminating wisdom to help us through this crisis, can we bring it to bear right now as we, in the midst of the experience that we're actually having? Because if we can bring these deep metaphysical and philosophical truths, if we can bring them into focus right now, but it takes a little bit of courage, and it takes a little bit of concentration, and it also takes and requires from us a love of spirit, a love of Dharma, a love of moksha, a love of inner freedom. We have to want to be free. We need to, because if you want to be free, and you're seriously interested in moksha liberation, we learn to use every moment that happens in life as an opportunity to let go and to be free. It's an opportunity to let go and to be free, and to see and know the truth, to let go and to be free and to see and know the truth. Can we refrain from too quickly drawing conclusions about what's good and what's bad and what's right and what's wrong right now? And can we refrain from drawing any conclusions, and as a result, create a lot more space in our awareness in order to see and to feel and to understand what's actually happening now, not from a place of panic and fear and insecurity, but from a place of awakened interest and awakened curiosity, in order to understand and ultimately be able to experience this insecurity from a place of awakened rationality, awakened objectivity, and a clarity and a calmness. But once again, to be able to do it, it requires that we exercise spiritual self-discipline. So spiritual self-discipline, when we apply spiritual self-discipline, it means we're not going to be just following the mind wherever it takes us. We're not going to be following our emotions wherever they take us. It means we are striving spiritually to be masters of our own destiny, masters of our own experience, masters of our own consciousness, masters of our own minds, and masters of our own bodies. So this requires spiritual self-discipline. So in this case, specifically, it's not running away with frightened conclusions about what's happening, but but allowing ourselves to see and experience the insecurity of the present moment from a place of awakened interest and awakened curiosity with a very big open heart. Awakened interest and awakened curiosity with a very big open heart. I'm not in any way advocating that we want to avoid or deny anything that's true. I'm not advocating anything like that, but I'm saying that can we, I mean, this is a great opportunity now because a lot of us have to stay at home. We can't just do all the things that we ordinarily do. We're not allowed to. We're not allowed to carry on as usual. So even though practically and financially, this is an enormous disruption and an enormous disturbance for all of our lives, spiritually, it's a great gift. I mean, we can see it that way if we want to, and that's how I'm choosing to see it. So it's a great gift because when people come to my retreats, they're always saying that they never have any time to meditate. Most people say they never have any time to meditate. They never have any time to think deeply or consider these big metaphysical and philosophical questions that I'm bringing up. And they say only when they take this time out, when they take out 3 days or a week or 10 days, do they begin to slow down and have the opportunity to really go deep. But now it seems that life has unexpectedly given us all this profound opportunity to take some time out from the predictability of our normal lives, whatever a normal means. I don't know what the word normal really means, but life has the life conditions have changed have changed dramatically and suddenly in such a way that we've all been afforded this great opportunity for contemplation, meditation, and introspection about the nature of existence, about the nature of the human experience, about an opportunity to contemplate the Buddha's great teaching about the nature of impermanence. And this is we can, if we choose to, see this moment as a great opportunity and as a great gift. As an enormous opportunity to really look very deeply into the nature of existence and the nature of the human experience in the context of great insecurity. And and if we think about it objectively and if we think about it rationally, from a certain point of view, from a certain perspective, this moment that we're living in right now is not really different from any other, in the sense that nothing is safe in terms of manifest existence. Nothing is safe, nothing is secure, and nothing is predictable. That this radical insecurity that we're all experiencing so suddenly is actually the truth of the way things are all the time from the perspective of the Buddha's teaching of impermanence and constant change. So this is the truth that we're always living in. But as I was saying earlier when I was speaking, we deny it. We live in denial of the truth of the Buddha's teaching of impermanence and the perpetual nature of change. And the degree to which we are living in constant denial of the absolute truth of the Buddha's teaching of impermanence and constant change, to the degree that we're living in denial of change, means that we are out of alignment, as I said before, out of alignment with reality, which makes us crazy people. Only crazy people deny what's objectively true and objectively real. But we're all crazy because we insist on pretending to ourselves and to each other. This is not just a private practice of pretense. It's not just a private practice of pretense, but we pretend to each other that we know that nothing's going to change in the way that we live our lives and in the way that we relate to each other, even in the kind of relationships we have. I mean, imagine how different human life would be or could be if we could find a way to embrace the Buddha's teaching of impermanence and of the perpetual nature of change, if we could embrace that at a very deeply, you know, emotionally, psychologically, philosophically, and spiritually, if we could embrace that truth very deeply, imagine how the effect it would have on our relationships. So in other words, if I knew that nothing was ultimately predictable and nothing was assured except death sooner or later, if I knew that nothing was predictable, then when I was with you and when you were with me or when we were with each other, whether we were having dinner together, having a coffee, or sharing a moment of intimacy and kindness, we would bring all of our attention to the profundity of the sharing that we were experiencing, because we would know that this may be the last time that we would see each other. And the knowledge of impermanence in that context awakens the light of enlightened awareness, because we realize that this is it. I may never see you again. So if I was with you and I knew that I might never see you again, I wouldn't take you for granted, and you wouldn't take me for granted, and I wouldn't treat the moment very casually. But I would bring so much more of my awareness to the moment. My heart would be much more available to you and to myself, because I would be so much more present. Because of course in life we take so much for granted, and we're living in our minds all the time. We live in our minds. We don't live in reality, in the reality as it truly is. We're living in our minds. So it keeps us asleep. You remember somebody once asked the Buddha, they asked him, "Are you a god?" And he said, "No, I'm not a god." He said, "I'm awake." I just love that. He said, "I'm not a god, and I'm awake." So I'm trying to describe in my own way my understanding of what it means to be awake, in the context of helping us all to try to come to terms with the potential spiritual significance of this moment in history in 2020 that we're all in the midst of. So I think that this, from a spiritual, not from a practical point of view, but from a spiritual point of view, this moment is affording all of us a great opportunity to look very deeply into the nature of the human experience and to the nature of reality itself in a way that could be of enormous benefit to us. It's an opportunity. Because as I was just saying, remember, the truth of impermanence, or the truth of absolute insecurity that this moment is making apparent to us, as I was just saying, is the truth of every single moment anyway.